Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial. Today we'll be creating a table using HTML. HTML table is an HTML structure for creating rows and columns on web pages. So when you're dealing with a large amount of tabular data, tables are definitely the way to go to display this information. It's a quick and easy way for your users to understand the data you are displaying. In this tutorial, we will create a table in HTML, and later I will teach you how to stylize this using CSS or cascading style sheet to give them an awesome look. An HTML table is defined with the table tag, each table row with the tr tag, a table header with the th tag. By default, table headings are bold and centered. And for the table data, we have the td tag, which is the data container of the table. They can contain all sorts of HTML elements, text, images, lists, other tables, and etc. So let's start. In my desktop, I have already prepared a template, so I'm going to open it. Notice that it has already the basic structure of our HTML document. So now I'm going to put my table inside the body, and I'm gonna type table and its end or close tag. So in this table, I'm gonna make one table row for the heading data and two table row for other data. I'm gonna add the content. And save it in my table tutorial directory as HTML basic.html. Now we will open this one in our browser to see the result. And here's the preview in our browser. Let's zoom in, and here's our Notepad preview. To create our CSS file, you have to click New in your Notepad and save as your file name .css, but in my case I'm gonna save it as table css.css. For the format type, select cascade style sheet file, then save on the same folder located in our desktop. Now in our directory, notice we already have two files, an HTML and the CSS. Now to link our CSS to our page, we must put the reference of our external style sheet or CSS to our page using the link element below our title. Type link rel equals to style sheet, type equals to text / css, href equals to table css.css, then save. Of course, you have to follow the indicated format below. Going back to our page, notice that our table has 3 rows and 3 columns. However, notice that rows and columns aren't separated well, and so it's hard to see and understand the data. We're gonna be styling the table using CSS to get a better view of the table, making things more organized and separated. Here in our CSS, we can actually style a table by giving it a border using the table selector. We're gonna be selecting all the table on the page. But if you have more than one table, you can select it using a class selector, like maybe the main, or an ID selector like that. The property in CSS that we can use for borders, whether for the tables or anything, is just border. And then we're gonna add a column. Basically, we must specify the border's thickness, what type of border, whether it's solid, dashed, dotted, and the color. And so we're gonna say 1 pixel solid, and black for our table's border, and a semicolon, then save. Now let's open our browser and refresh to see the result. Okay, so now our table has a border around it, but the rows and columns where the table data do not have borders around them. We can change that by editing our CSS file. So now let's edit our CSS code. So if we come over here, we can actually say table, and we can say th for the table header, and td for table data. Let's save the changes. Again, let's open our browser to see the effect. Click refresh, and there it is. Our table is now separated, has more space in it, and more organized. Another thing that we're gonna be learning about table is the border collapse property. The border collapse property allows you to take these two borders here. Instead of two, we're gonna collapse this to just one single border. To do that, just type border collapse and colon. And if you want to collapse them into one border, all you have to do is collapse semicolon and save. And we will refresh our browser. Now we notice that our table just have one simple unified border. Now we're gonna talk about how to pad a table. Cell padding specifies the space between the cell content and its borders. You can see that there's not much space between the text and the table data columns or table data elements. We can change that by padding the table. And so we type padding colon and say 15 pixel and a semicolon, then save. What's gonna do is it's gonna add a space all around the four sides of our table data element. We'll refresh, you notice that our table is now a little bit more clean looking and basically more organized. Colspan attribute is used if you want to merge two or more columns into a single column. Similar way, you will use row span if you want to merge two or more rows. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add one additional row above the first row, and I'm gonna use Colspan attribute to span it up to the third column. To do this, I'm going to open my HTML file, and I'll copy and paste the first row table element so I can maximize the time from typing. I'm gonna delete some of the elements. And on the th open tag, I'm gonna type colspan equals to 3 in order to span it up to the third column, since our table has 3 columns. And I'm gonna call this new row as name and save. Let's open again our browser to see the result of our editing. Let's hit refresh, and there we now have our additional row. Just to show you guys how to use rowspan, I just thought we could apply it here in MI columns since the data are just the same. All you gotta do is edit the HTML document. Notice we have two TDs with the same data, which is M. So inside the open tag with the M content, type rowspan equals to 2. Then delete the other row having the same M content and save. Now let's preview in our browser. Refresh, and that's it for our colspan and rowspan. Width and height of a table are defined by the width and height properties. For width, we're gonna type table again, then bracket, type width and colon, and say 50%, a semicolon, then save. Let's refresh. As a result, it consumed half of the horizontal space of our browser. How about 100%? Let's reload. And okay, so now you see the difference between 50% and 100%. Another thing that I wanted to show you is how to apply the height property in the table, specifically in my header. On another command line, type th for the header, then an open bracket, type height and colon. Okay, so let's say 50 pixel height, then semicolon. Let's save and reload our browser. Okay, so as a result, the height of our header is now greater than other rows. So that's how to style the table width and height using CSS. As I had mentioned a while ago, table header data by default is bold and centered. Now, what I wanted is to have this left aligned to make it similar to other rows where the data is already aligned left. So on the table header, we'll add a text align and column. For our alignment, left and semicolon, then save. Now let's open our browser, click refresh, and notice that our header is now aligned left. Since all of our alignment is on the left, we can actually modify our CSS code by putting it on top where TH and TD is there. All you have to do is delete this code and put it back here. Save and refresh the browser. Now, as if nothing has changed, so it only means that it can also be done that way. Aside from left, we can also change our alignment to center and right. Guys, what if I don't want this border style in my table? Is there an option where I can put only one line at the bottom of my rows? Actually there is. It's called border bottom property. So we're gonna open our CSS file and we will edit the border elements. And we're gonna change it to border bottom column, say 1 pixel, solid, and hashtag DDD for the color, and semicolon. Hit save, and let's see the result in our browser. Okay, so that's the effect, and I think it's better since it has a millennial look. One last thing that I wanted to share you guys is how we can create a hoverable table. What hoverable table do is it highlights table rows on or during mouse over. Alright, so now we will edit our CSS file, and below we will gonna add another line of command. Type tr hover and an open bracket. Then inside we will type background color and colon. Then for the color is yellow green. Of course, you can choose your own color. Let's save and let's open our browser for the result. Let's reload, and there you go. Okay, so that's all for my HTML and CSS table tutorial. Thanks for watching.